How is everybody doing this fine day? I hope you are doing well. It is Sunday. Let me adjust my volume just a hair. It is Sunday, and I haven't done it live in a very long time. And I thought today would be a good day to do one and talk about the war in Syria a little bit. I had a couple people mention something to me that they would be interested in hearing my take on what is happening in Syria. And I have really kind of been holding still, listening to a lot of different people's opinions on the issue. There's a lot of people who jumped the gun and were very quick to call things out as prophetic. And it could be true. So I guess let's spend a little time and talk a little bit about it. So I remember all the way back 2011, we had gone, that was the first time we went to Israel. There was already some activity taking place. And I remember the war escalating quite a bit over the next few years, and we really got into the thick of it. It was, I want to say 2013 was probably the first time that we were there. We actually in Israel, and we heard live fire over the border the whole trip. It was just cacophony of just bombs going off and things of that nature. And so literally there has been a civil war taking place for over a decade. And I remember different times that we went up to Mount Bental, which is right on the border, and you can see out over Syria, and praying for peace and praying for things to change and things to get better. And we did that, and on many occasions, and it was always fascinating to kind of see how things progress. But there was actually one time that we were up there that my dad actually saw an ISIS truck through binoculars running down through the valley with the black flag on the back. And it was a bit eerie, honestly, when you're in that situation, you actually see firsthand, things that will make news the next day. So that part was interesting. However, is this prophetic? Is this biblical? Is this something we should look at specifically, especially in light of prophecy? And the question is, or the answer is maybe. There are several reasons why it's important. Number one, anything that happens in this region is important. Anything that happens specifically having to do with the conflict in Syria is going to be important. It's a valid concern. It is something we have to think about. But based upon what we see so far, we have taken a Ba'athist kind of regime, and we have a militant Islamic interim government, and now they have to flesh out what kind of government there will be. There's a lot of hope that there will be more moderate, that there'll be religious freedom, that there'll be democracy. But the people in charge of it now would in some ways still be very Islamic, and probably are not going to want that sort of a government. So it remains to be seen. But from a prophetic standpoint, I guess let's look at it. So there's a prophecy. If you know the story of the prophecies in Daniel, Daniel describes the king of the north who ultimately rises to power. He leads wars in the region, and then ultimately comes and attacks the king of the south. And the king of the south is mentioned as the king of Egypt, but you could probably say it's a spiritual entity. So it's maybe not the actual king, but it could be a spiritual kind of backdrop there. So when we talk about king of Egypt, maybe it means something broader. I don't know. But in short, if you're taking it just as it says, you have a king of the north, you have the king of the south, and they're going to do battle, and Israel is going to get caught in between. That is the Daniel scenario. And so, yes, this could be important. We could see the rise of a militaristic / political figure who could match the description of the king of the north. And if that's the case, we have a legitimate candidate for an antichrist. I'm going to say an antichrist, not the antichrist, because we don't know that it's the antichrist until he comes up against Jerusalem. So is this important? Yes, it is. We have to look at the region. Now, I would say more importantly, probably the thing to really look at is actually in Turkey. So Erdogan has his eyes on restoring a caliphate, the traditional Ottoman Empire, if you will. And he is far more motivated to take control of the situation in Syria. So I believe what you're going to see is him exert pressure, especially on the north of Syria, and he's going to try to exert political influence over the whole region. And when he does this, this is actually going to be the thing to really see what happens. I'm curious if he's going to try to take over in some fashion and make it a protectorate. Up till now, Syria has been largely under other influences, Iran, Russia, through proxy. But now you have an open door for Turkey to exert itself. And so I think the thing you have to really watch for right now, more than anything else, is to see how Turkey actually plays into this. So, in short, watch Erdogan, watch Turkey, see what happens. But biblically speaking, we're wanting, if Daniel's prophecy is yet to be fulfilled, we're looking for a king of the north to basically expand his kingdom beyond what his fathers could, and to take basically do conflict with neighboring regions in the north that ultimately will push south. So that is, in short, the prophetic thing to look at. Now, there is a prophecy about the fall of Damascus and the utter destruction of it. Some people point to that, and try to connect this to it. Don't know that that's necessarily happening at this point. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it is certainly part of prophecy that that will happen. But it makes more sense that there's part of the greater conflict of the king of the north and king of the south. So Jesus, in the Olivet Discourse, when he's discussing prophecy in general and things to look for, makes mention, and you really don't read this exactly in the Matthew account, but in the other accounts you do, when Jerusalem is surrounded with armies, then know that the end is nigh. So that still is, in my opinion, the symbol that you have to look at. When you have to look at encroaching conflict into Israel against Jerusalem as a very important thing. But also, just to remind everybody, from my perspective, you're looking for two individuals. You're looking for an Antichrist figure who is an opposer, who comes in to opposes Israel, and you have an anti-Messiah, okay, or pseudo-Christos, a fake Messiah kind of figure who makes peace for a season with this Antichrist figure. I think you have both in play. I really do. And that is why you have this image of a beast and a false prophet. So some people have looked at things differently. That's fine. But you see both warned about by Jesus, Antichristos in the book of John, pseudo-Christos in the other Gospels. So you're looking for both. I think you're looking for both, and a false Messiah, and you're also looking for an opposer, anti-Messiah. And is this new leader an anti-Messiah? If he's Islamic, absolutely he's an anti-Messiah. He's not for Jesus, and he's not for Christianity. So we have to conclude that he is acting in that kind of an attitude or a spirit. However, is he the anti-Messiah? That remains to be seen. And so that is all I have for today, an update. I'll keep my eyes open to it. And as things develop, we'll go from there. So far, the rhetoric from this individual has been anti-Israel. Many of the fighters who have fought in this conflict are anti-Israel. They can't wait to take over Jerusalem, attitudes like that. So this is not a pro-Israel regime. This is an antichrist, quote unquote, regime that we're witnessing. And Turkey is also an antichrist regime. So let's see if these consolidate power. That is what has my attention. All right. So God bless. That is the update for today.